We need to talk. So for the last few months, there's been something that has really baffled the majority of the Aberdeen fan base. And this is Ronald Hernandez. Ronald Hernandez is a 23-year-old Venezuelan right back who plays for Aberdeen. Well, I say plays, what I actually mean is he's made 3 appearances since joining in January of this year. Now, this wouldn't seem, too out of the blue, teams bring in players, it doesn't quite work. However, Ronald Hernandez was brought in for £850,000 by Aberdeen. By far the biggest signing Aberdeen have made in quite some time. For context, that transfer fee would put him as Aberdeen's 4th biggest signing of all time, just below Billy Dodds, which is absolutely mental. Now, before we jump into the details of, why it's not worked and maybe what the issues have been, let's just have a quick look at Ronald Hernandez in general, because there must have been some sort of, draw for Aberdeen to have spent this money on the player in the first place. Hernandez started his career over in Venezuela for a club called Zamora, where he came through the youth ranks and ended up playing 17 senior games for them. Ronnie made the jump to European football in 2017 when he made the jump from Zamora to Stabæk in the Norwegian First Division. Now here Hernandez made a name for himself. He put himself on the scene, if you will. He made 56 appearances for Stabæk in the space of 3 years, so he was a regular starter for this team, and that started to draw a bit of attention to him. During his time at Stabæk, Hernandez made his first foray into international football, firstly playing for the Venezuelan under-20s and representing them at the FIFA Under-20 World Cup in 2017. He then broke into the senior squad, having now played 17 games for the Venezuelan senior side. Now, as you can see, Ronald Hernandez was clearly a highly touted player and showed a lot of talent. So the question is, what has been the issue when he's came into Aberdeen? What has stopped him fulfilling that potential? Now, there's a few things that is at play here. The first of which is the sort of, tug on the heartstrings sort of side of it, in that Hernandez has been separated from his family in the move. So in January, not only did Hernandez have to adapt to life in Scotland after living in Norway and Venezuela, he also had to do that alone. Throughout his time at the Dons, it's been, quite publicised that, his family, his wife and his kid are still living in Venezuela and they've not been able to get over to Scotland in the meantime. And the club have been trying to sort this, which has been said a few times in different sort of press and things like that. So it is something that's trying to be sorted, but as you can imagine, it's now almost been a year since he's been away from his family, which again is going to knock anyone's confidence is going to be gone with that. Your head's not going to be in it, which alone that makes sense as to why potentially he's not performing in training to get himself into the squad. Now, one of the other things I just want to dive into a little bit, aside from that factor, is it doesn't really make sense why Aberdeen signed him in the first place. Now, bear with me for a second, because it is a bit confusing. Now, you might ask yourself, so what do you mean it doesn't make any sense? Shea Logan's getting to, the sort of tail end of his career. We need a replacement right back. It makes a lot of sense to bring someone in. That would be the case if it didn't happen that this season Aberdeen stopped playing right back. Now, anyone who's watched Aberdeen this season has known the sort of formation that they're going with. They're going with the 3 at the back and the sort of 2 more defensive wingers on either side. And Hernandez isn't suited to that. He isn't suited to that situation. You noticed Shea Logan's not been playing a lot this season due to that as well. So that begs the question, why would a manager bring in a player who's not going to fit into your plans? Now, this is where it gets a bit interesting. Now, one thing that gets you thinking about Ronald Hernandez signing for Aberdeen was pointed out by Here We Go, the Aberdeen FC podcast on Twitter. In the latest accounts that Aberdeen released, on the day that Hernandez signed, there was a £1 million loan made to the club from a related party, which is essentially one of the directors. Now, I'll put the screenshot on the screen just now. So as you can see, obviously the loans came in just over £1 million, which Could just be coincidence, could mean absolutely nothing. But it is quite interesting that we have this Atlanta deal, and all of a sudden we sign, out of the blue, this South American right back that doesn't really fit into the team, not necessarily someone we're looking at for a long time or someone we had our eye on, and we've spent almost a record fee for the last decade on him. Now, one of the big theories about this is that it's all to do with the Atlanta connection with Aberdeen. And what's that, you ask me? In late November of 2019, Aberdeen announced that they were going into a partnership with Atlanta United in the MLS. What this meant was it was called a strategic partnership, which essentially what they said was to boost footballing and commercial operations for both clubs. So it was announced that AMB Sports and Entertainment, the parent company of Atlanta United, were investing £2 million into Aberdeen as part of a new package of investment led by Dave Cormack, totaling £5 million. Now, this was to raise capital for the club's day-to-day operations. Now, as part of Atlanta's investment into the Dons, Darren Eales, the president of Atlanta United and former executive director of Tottenham, joined the Aberdeen board. Now, this is where people are putting two and two together. Now, essentially, when Cormack announced, the deal was going through, what he was quoted as saying is that the collaboration between the clubs will deliver economies of scale by aligning both clubs on key football and business operation best practice. It will include shared agreement on worldwide player identification, assessment, recruitment and development. For example, we will be able to tap into their impressive scouting network across South America, and in return, we can assist them with identifying and assessing players in Europe. Now, you can kind of see why people are getting the idea that we've signed Ronald Hernandez as this sort of stepping stone for Atlanta United. And to be honest, I can't really blame anyone for thinking it, because it really is the only logical idea here. Now, it does make sense, because this is the first time a manager at Aberdeen has had this money to spend on a player since the 90s. And when you think of all the players that Aberdeen could spend $800,000 on, you're probably not thinking of a 23-year-old right back from Venezuela who's been playing in Norway. So what are the next steps for Ronald Hernandez? Is he destined to move to Atlanta United? Is he going to live up the American dream over in the MLS? Who knows? At Aberdeen's AGM yesterday, Dave Cormack made a statement essentially talking about the situation with Hernandez, and he explained that it has been difficult for Hernandez to, climatise to the club and get himself match fit, and that's the reason why he's not been playing. He did also mention the issue with his family and the fact that they are away from him and it is a hard time for him, and that's another factor as to why he's not been playing at the moment. Now, he did mention that there is interest in Hernandez from other clubs, and there's a potential that they'll be looking to seal a deal for him to move on from Aberdeen, which is quite interesting. Does this mean he's going to head over to Atlanta on a cheap and we're going to recoup that money that has been lent to Aberdeen on the same day, or is he just going to go to whatever random team fancies their chances with him? Now, I for one like what I've seen from Hernandez. He's not really had a chance at Aberdeen, but looking at his clips, having played for his previous clubs and at national level for Venezuela, he looks like a good player. He looks like someone that could do a job. Unfortunately, he just doesn't fit into the system that Aberdeen are playing at the moment, which is a bit unfortunate, and again, it's just a bit strange that we signed him in the first place. Hopefully this means for him, he can move on and he can finally have the career that he deserves and, push on and become the player that, clearly we thought he was going to be. Now, if he does end up going to Atlanta United, how is that going to go down with the Aberdeen fans? Are we going to feel, like this sort of stepping stone club that we're going to bring in these random players, spend a fortune on them, and then pass them off to the big boys? because I don't think that's what a lot of Aberdeen fans were expecting from this deal. I think we were expecting to prosper from this and be equals with Atlanta, so I think if that is what happens here, it could go down quite negatively, especially with the amount of support that Hernandez has got from the Aberdeen fans. If you look at any matchday lineup, you'll see underneath where's Hernandez, free Ronnie, all that sort of stuff. So I think that would be a dangerous move for Aberdeen and would probably set the precedent for this Atlanta United deal. Now, we could just be talking absolute nonsense and, you know, ultimately it's got nothing to do with the Atlanta deal, it just is a coincidence, in which case, well, it's a nothing point. We've just wasted 800,000 on nothing. But I'd like to think that there's more to this and there's a reason why he's not been playing. It is a really sad case, to be honest, because he does have a lot of potential. He came in with a lot of fanfare. Again, a lot of people were excited to get him in, and it's just not gone his way, which again, like I said, is unfortunate. Now, I'm going to pass the question off to you guys. What do you think of Ronald Hernandez? What do you think the situation is? Do you think he's going to go to Atlanta United in January? Do you think he's going to, you know, stay in Europe and go to another team? Do you think he's going to go back to Norway? What do you think? Leave a comment down below and let me know. So yeah, thank you very much for watching the video, guys. Again, I do appreciate it. This is a new thing for me, not doing any sort of Football Manager content in a video. As always, if you liked the video, hit the like button down below, hit the subscribe button for more. I've got plenty of videos on my channel you can check out. All my details are in the description down below. I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.